Good morning and welcome to this edition of Life After High School. I'm here with Walker Orner and we'll be talking about his adventures that he has had in the past year or so. All right, Walker, what exactly have you been doing ever since you graduated?
Well, Logan, I am taking what is called a gap year, which means that I am taking a year off of traditional education to do more untraditional, non-school-based education. And for my gap year, I decided to do some traveling across Europe.
All right, and can you name some of these exotic places through Europe that you've been to?
Well, I started off in Spain and spent about a month and a half traveling around different parts of Spain. After that, I made it over to the islands, the British Islands, and spent some time with Aidan Hoffman, a person I think you have interviewed in this program before, in London where he's studying. And I was in Glastonbury, England. And after that, I went over to Ireland to finish up my time right before Christmas.
Now, did you experience any culture shock or extreme differences in culture from here in America over there?
In Europe, there are some small differences. You don't tip the waiters. You don't eat fast food that often, and they don't speak English, except that everyone speaks English. So I would say that for anyone who is scared to travel, don't worry if you don't speak another language, because everyone is usually more than willing to accommodate you.
All right, so I understand you took Spanish through high school.
Mm-hmm.
Did that stick with you through your adventures in Spain?
Yes, actually, my Spanish came back to me after not using it for over the summer, and it was very nice to be able to communicate with the people who were actually Spanish. I stayed with a Brazilian family and a German lady during my time there volunteering in different places. So I didn't get to use my Spanish that much, but when I did, it came in handy.
Now, you mentioned you stayed with a couple of families. Are these host families, or were these friends of yours that you had?
I didn't know them previously, but there's a website called workaway.info that will connect you with different hosts, right? Host families or hosts that will be willing to host you in exchange for work. So I was not paid, but I was given food and a place to stay while I was there working 4 to 5 hours a day.
All right, so did you have one of these host families in each location that you went to, or was it sort of like travel there and then travel back?
Yeah, very good question. No, I stayed in Europe and in the UK for a total of 4 months, 90 days in the Skagen region, which is mainland Europe. That's what I'm allowed to with my tourist visa. And then the rest of the time, which was about 60 days in the UK and Ireland. So and at each of those different countries, I did use a workaway host, as well as stayed with some friends while I was there.
Okay. Now, are these friends of yours? Are they from here in Pennsylvania, or did you make the friends over there?
I stayed with Aidan Hoffman in London while I was there for on and off for about 4 weeks, and then I stayed with some other friends that I've made through other activities that I do, not from Pennsylvania.
All right, so how long ago did you get back to the States?
I got back to the States right before Christmas, right in time for Christmas with my family.
That's good. Now, have you been up to anything nearly as exciting in the States as you have been abroad?
Well, right after New Year's, my family and I went to Guatemala for two weeks to the city of Antigua. We had been to Guatemala before, but not to that city, and we were really excited to spend some time there.
That's good. Now, do you ever get tired of all the constant traveling?
I've had a lot of people ask me that, Logan, and I have found that after about 4 months, I was pretty sick of not being around people who spoke my language, not eating the food I'm used to, missing my family. So I would say that after that extended period of time, I was pretty sick of traveling and wanted to get home, and was very happy to be back in really cold Pennsylvania. Surprisingly, I did not think I would be, but it doesn't last that long. I'm ready to go out and do some more traveling now.
So do you think this traveling hiatus has definitely renewed your burning fire for traveling?
I would say so. Being in Guatemala was a nice little trip that I got to spend with my family actually, so I wasn't homesick too much. But yeah, I plan to do a lot more traveling in the future.
Now with the financial situation, how can you afford to do all this traveling?
Right, so that's another question I get asked a lot. How can I afford to travel across Europe? And the answer is I saved a lot of money. I worked all summer to afford a plane ticket from Pittsburgh to Spain, and that was probably my biggest expense. After that, I was working with hosts in volunteer situations, so I never had to pay anything to stay there. So I didn't have to pay for food, and I didn't have to pay for board, which would be the most pay for rooms, which would be the most expenses generally when you're traveling. And so it turned out that I didn't actually spend that much money except on the transportation costs. Okay. So it's a lot easier to travel if you plan ahead and you save.
Right. Now, do you, after your gap year is over, do you plan on attending a university or a sort of abroad program over in Europe, or do you just want to stay in the States for that?
I've thought about that, and I think that for the first couple years of college, I want to stay in the States and be grounded here in my own country, and be an American, not pretending to be a Canadian over in Europe or something. No, I want to do some abroad traveling, probably my junior or senior year.
All right. Now, how has the effect of the election with Donald Trump becoming the president, how has that been prevalent over there?
Well, I was in England when the news was broken that he would be our next president, and I have to say that as soon as they found out I was American, every single British person came up to me and apologized and felt bad for me, and it made me feel better in that time.
Yeah. Now, do you think they would have had the same reaction if Hillary Clinton would have been elected, or?
Yeah, I think their view of American politicians is pretty bad because of our history. So I feel the reaction would have been similar, but I think the shock was pretty prevalent about Trump.
Okay. Now, with I remember you said something about pretending to be a Canadian. Do they have different views of Americans than they do of Canadians?
Yes. America has a lot of history that with Europe that Canada doesn't, and I think Canadians are seen as more friendly. But I never had to pretend I was Canadian, and I was welcomed with maybe some jokes about America, but never anything too bad when people found out I was from the States.
All right, and that is all the time we have for today. Thank you, Walker, for coming in and speaking with us, and tune in next time for the next edition of Life After High School.